Good morning, Barry Bryson again, thanking you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're continuing our study of the life and letters of the Apostle Peter, and we're going to have just a very short section today which introduces really the body of the book, of the letter, from First Peter, chapter 2, verses 13 through 17. So yesterday, and remember as we introduced this book, we talked about it as occurring during the persecution of Nero, that first persecution in which the Empire of Rome recognized Christians as a separate entity from Judaism and as enemies of the state because they were practicing an illegal religion. And we talked about how terribly, especially in the city of Rome, Christians were being persecuted during the persecution of Nero. And that this book is written to prepare us for that, to write to Christians about the persecution that is to come and how we prepare ourselves for it and endure it as it happens. And beginning with verse 13, he's getting to really to the heart of the instruction portion of this letter. What he said yesterday, right before we get to verse 13, is that, listen, Jesus was different and rejected, and so are you. You also are different and rejected. Jesus is the cornerstone that they rejected. And you are the bricks built upon that cornerstone. You once were not a people, but now you're the very people of God. You hadn't received mercy, but now you have. So you have to act that way. And that's what he starts to tell us in verses 13 through 17. So let me read that. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human institution. I started the wrong verse. Let me go back up to verse 11. Beloved, I urge you as aliens and strangers to abstain from fleshly lusts which wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that in the thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may on account of your good deeds, as they see them, glorify God on the day of visitation. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether to a king as to the one in authority, or to governors as sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and the praise of those who do right. For such is the will of God, that by doing right you may silence the ignorance of foolish men. Act as free men, but do not use your freedom as a covering for evil, but use it as bondslaves of good. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. There's so much of Paul in this, in that Paul has already written similar instructions to Christians. The whole way we treat each other and Christian behavior toward others, not just outsiders, but each others as Christians, and then to your spouse, your children. He's going to cover those things in the next 2 chapters, and it's really going to remind us of Ephesians and Colossians, okay? But this also reminds us of Romans, because in Romans chapter 13, Paul says, be good citizens, pay your taxes. They may persecute you, but you be a good citizen. Not to the point that you disobey God, but you are not to foment revolution. You are not to erect barricades. You are not to storm the Palatine Hill and trash it. You're not to do those things. You are to be a good citizen and obey the law. And they're writing this to people who are being sewn up in animal skins and thrown in the arena to the animals, to wild beasts, to wild predators, to be eaten alive by them for the entertainment of the crowds. And they're also being written to people who have been covered in tar and used as illumination, burnt alive as illumination for the night, which is something that Tacitus tells us happened in his annals. And they're saying, respect the authority of the government and be good citizens. I urge you as aliens and strangers. That's important. He began the letter. I'm writing to you who reside as aliens. You don't belong here. You are outsiders. You may have Roman citizenship, but your citizenship is in heaven. Paul told them that in Philippians chapter 3. He's already written that. You're aliens and strangers. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles. Abstain from fleshly lusts. You have to be moral people. You have to maintain the moral high ground. If any of this is going to matter to anyone else, and if you're going to endure this, you have to give these things up. those internal things that plague you. And keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles. Notice what he's doing here, what Paul has always done. We're the true Israel. And everyone who's not a Christian is a Gentile, not the true Israel. They're the outsiders. But you don't shun them. You're living among them. Keep your behavior excellent among them, so that on the day of visitation, what does that mean? Does it mean when Jesus comes again? Maybe. Does it mean the day that they come and knock on your door and haul you out into the street because you're a Christian? Probably. Certainly. He's talking about that primarily. And if they see the way you act, and if you don't believe this happened, read Eusebius's Ecclesiastical History and Fox's Book of Martyrs. When they see the way you act, they will have reverence. In the same way the centurion on the hill of Calvary said, surely this man was the Son of God. That's going to happen when you live and die as a Christian. And he says, you are free. You are free. But don't use your freedom. Do not use your freedom for sin, but use it for the gospel itself. It's thought for thought, if not word for word, what Paul says in Romans 16 about yielding your body as weapons for righteousness, not as weapons for evil. But then that last verse, I love, because in just 4 short phrases, he explains our relationship to everybody else we know other than ourselves. Honor all men. Respect everybody. Treat everyone with respect. Love the brotherhood. Your relationship with your brothers and sisters in Christ is different. It is an expression of agape love. Fear God. Honor the king. You show respect to everybody. You show respect to the authorities in government and the respect that is due them as the government. But you're not afraid of them. You're not afraid of them. They have no power over you. You're free. You fear God. Honor all men. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the king. If we get that right, we'll get everything right about our public lives. Okay. Thank you for joining me for 5 good minutes. Tomorrow, we'll pick up with the rest of chapter 2.